I moved out here in March of 2014. And so my garden's going on its 4th year. When I arrived, it was barren, like you see above the plants. And I struggled the first year getting things to grow. I did eventually get someone to help me with an irrigation line here. And so they're going on their 4th year. I like to take pictures of the garden early in the morning. The sunlight looks great. I have some Indian grass. See if I can zoom in on it. That's this particular species is called red barren. I like taking pictures of it when the sun's at a low angle, either the morning or the evening, because of the way it shines. They're real happy in the garden. They're easy to dig out, even though they spread around. Beside them there, the pink Gaura, I think it's pronounced, Gaura, also known as the butterfly bush. The butterfly bush this is my 4th try with it because the deer and rabbits would eat it. But this year I got a larger, more mature plant and they're leaving it alone. Other things I've had to cage for about 3 years. And then the trees I'm still caging. And anything that they won't leave alone. They do eat my roses. I had them netted for quite a while, but now that they're bigger, I'm letting the deer go ahead and prune them for me, and then I prune them at the end of the year again. These barberry plants, bushes, were eaten by rabbits right down to the ground practically the first few years I had them. And I had to cage them, and I pretty much had given up on them. But, well, let's say the ones in the back that look smaller, I moved them around a bit too. But now they're doing better. The ones in the front, I planted just last year, and they've left them alone. So you never know what the animals are going to mess with, and sometimes they are mostly curious about what it is and give it a try. But if they are very small, like you get in a nursery in those like 3-inch pots, anything small, 3-inch and smaller, are very tender and succulent, and it's just too tender to survive the animals. So I suggest buying things at least in the 6-inch pot, and then netting or fencing the ones that you find that they're attracted to, and let them get at least a year or 2 old. Most of mine that I have fenced, I'm going to leave in about 5 years and then remove the fencing. This is an experimental garden. I've had to remove a lot of things because some things got a lot bigger than I thought. Like this one is a type of salvia, and it's grown quite large, and it's done really well. And the one in front of it, the red one here, I've had to prune a lot so that the ground plants around it can have some space. So both, almost all of the salvia plants do better higher up so that they can just go ahead and grow. Let's see, there's another plant that's really big. That's the Russian sage. I actually bought one called dwarf Russian sage. But the first year, yeah, it got about 1.5 feet high, but now it's growing about almost 4 feet. And it spreads a lot, so I'm going to have a lot of things to move around the garden or yard, which is fine. I love moving them around, the ones that transplant easily. I live in the U.S. hardiness zone 7A, I think it's called. It's sort of a high desert. The main problems here include drought, heat, wind, and below freezing, sometimes down to -12 or so in the winter, and really strong heat in the summer. So it has a lot of things to battle with. The wind is very damaging on things. So I've just put in things that I think I'll see how it does. If it survives, great. If it doesn't survive, well, okay, try something else. But as I say, the first year I struggled quite a bit. I didn't think anything would make it, or very little would make it. But the basic things that do great right off the bat are the rosemary plants. Let's see, there's one right there. They do really well. I have to prune them back almost 50% every fall or in the spring. And they just grow great. The first year I put in these blue fescue because I thought they would make a great ornamental, and they do, but the rabbits ate them back to the size of my hand, my fist. And that was really upsetting. I thought, even the blue fescue? But now I think it was a curiosity because they seemed to leave it alone. Of course, they were small when I got them too. They were in one of those 3-inch plants, and they ate them back to almost a little nub. These are the agapanthus lilies. Some people call them the lily of the Nile, I think. I'm waiting to see if they're going to bloom this year. I've had blooms before, so I think they bloom later in the summer, late summer. And I know that they're doing well because they're multiplying. They were fairly small. Oh, that's another great thing about any kind of a lily. The deer and the rabbits rarely ever touch them. Maybe during the period of the year when things get really sparse, the deer might come through, and if they're desperate, they'll go ahead and eat the flower off the lily. So anyway, there's my garden. I have a lot of weeding to do. I had poppies galore this year, and I did a huge amount of weeding at the end of July, or no, it was the first part of July, because they took over the garden. The California poppies just took off like crazy, and they got them almost 2.5, 3, 4 feet high in spots, and they suffocated some of these other plants for part of the summer. So I had to go through and weed and weed and weed. It was like a pile of straw by the time I got through. So, but it's great to have them. I mean, they'll be back in the spring because they've left their little seed pods all over the place. Don't know if I can see. I've tried to clean some of them up, but the little semicircular there seeds that are laying around all over it, so they've spread themselves a lot. Anyway, so going on 4 years now, I finally have my garden growing. Bravo. And down the other end, I have a little bit of some food plants down there. But I've got a lot to learn about that. So just sort of an update. So the date today is September 8th, 2018. Okay. God bless everybody.